When Barry Bonds passed Babe Ruth on the all-time home run list, Giants announcer Dave Flemming was behind the microphone. However, because of a malfunction, the call never made the airwaves. Flemming touches on that and how the Giants will fare this season in part 2 of his interview with Bryan Cheung.
For all the fans out there, what was your call of Barry Bonds' home run passing Babe Ruth going to be like?
You know, it was unbelievable because not only was it a great call, I mean, really one of the best in baseball history, but remember the guy was standing in the beer line behind the building out beyond center field and the ball dropped in his lap basically. I know it sounds hard to believe, but from here in the booth, I noticed that. The ball dropping in the cup, I nailed the call. Nah, man. It was a pretty, here the serious answer is that it was such a perfect home run to call for a big home run. The broadcaster's nightmare on a big home run is the ball that just barely gets over the wall and maybe even the ball that the guy jumps up for, the outfielder goes for, and you can't right away tell, did he catch it? Is it in the stands? What is it? You have to wait. You have to pause and make sure you know what you're going to say, but make sure what you're going to say is correct before you say it. Bonds hit it 460 feet, and literally a hundredth of a second after the ball left his bat, it was like, okay, home run. Let's start screaming. And that's not, I wasn't just out of my mind, but it was a pretty easy call to make as those calls go. And that sort of disappointed me about losing the call because I think I got it right, and nobody will ever believe me except for ask Greg Papa next time you talk to Greg. He's the other guy who heard the call.
What was your reaction when you heard that it didn't get recorded? Like, were you upset? Did it bother you for maybe the rest of the game? Or?
Well, my reaction immediately was I didn't believe it because we were sitting right where you and I are sitting here, and I was in this chair, and Greg was sitting where you are, and we both heard the call. And so our immediate reaction, our engineer back here in the back of the booth starts yelling at us, it didn't go out over the air, it didn't go out over the air, he's throwing stuff at us, you gotta say something, you have to, but neither of us wanted to say, well, I couldn't say anything, my mic didn't work, but Greg did not want to jump in because his fear was, well, what if the engineer has it wrong? We heard it, what if something happened back there to his equipment, it really actually did go out over the air, all of a sudden we go on saying, oh, we apologize when nothing was wrong. So we were real skeptical at first. Not that he didn't know what he was talking about, but let's hold on a second before we jump in here and alter what was an historic call, we thought. Before we alter that, let's make sure 100% that we know that something went wrong. After we found out that actually it didn't go out over the air, didn't get recorded, did not exist anywhere, I was ticked off, and I tried to, I think I concentrated the rest of the game. I finished the game, but I finished the game using a handheld mic, the setup that I had never got fixed until we went on the road. And it was disappointing. In a lot of ways, I'm more famous now than I was because the thing went wrong. So in some ways, I guess, it helped me. But if you ask me, would I rather just had the call go out over the air, the answer is yeah. I will say this. If he hits the one that passes Aaron while I'm on the mic, the thing better work.
John Miller does a lot of great impressions. Can you do any impressions?
I'm not an impressionist. I probably could do a couple, but I think maybe that's one of the reasons why John and I work pretty well together because instead of being the same guy, we complement each other a little bit, and I kind of know how to set him up. And if I think he's thinking about something, sometimes I can drop in a line and get him to go off on one of his stories or little routines. So you have to be careful when you're working with John. If I'm going to do impressions, they better be really good.
Okay, I have a bunch of quick questions for you here. Sure, so, your favorite nickname?
Of my nicknames?
Your nickname, Flame, number 4.
I like et al. Personally.
Et al.
Yeah.
Et al. Favorite team growing up?
The Cardinals were my favorite. My dad and my grandfather taught me about baseball, and they were from Missouri, and they grew up Cardinals fans.
Favorite team now?
The Giants.
Favorite player growing up?
Eddie Murray. I loved Eddie Murray because I lived near Baltimore.
Favorite player now?
I like these young guys. I like watching Matt Cain. Anytime Matt Cain's on the mound, I'm a big-time fan.
Most memorable game or most memorable call?
Well, probably the most memorable call is the home run call that didn't happen, not for the reasons I'd like it to. I did get to do Bond's 700th home run call.
The 0-1 pitch. Evie throws and Bond swings it. It's a long one. Deep to left field. Klesko goes back. He looks up, and it's gone. There it is, number 700 for Barry Bonds. He hit it to the opposite field. And Bonds circles the bases as the newest member of the 700 club.
But there are a couple really memorable games for me, and one of them is kind of been lost. It's kind of been forgotten about, but the Red Sox came here to town, and it was such an exciting series, interleague play. The Red Sox had never been out here to San Francisco ever. And Jason Schmidt, against that lineup that would later go on to win the World Series, threw a one-hitter. There was one hit. He struck out like 12 or 13. Ramirez, Ortiz, they had no chance, and the Red Sox people were coming over to us going, what is this guy throwing? They'd never seen anything like Jason Schmidt, and I'll never forget that because that lineup was so good that year, and then going on to break the curse and win the World Series. For some reason, that game sticks in my mind.
Barry Zito, under or over 15 wins?
Oh, I think Zito will be right around 15, but I'd say over. I think he's going to win 16.
Will Armando Benitez be the closer at year's end?
I think he will be. The way he's throwing now, I think he's going to be the closer all year.
Will Barry Bonds be in a Giant uniform next season?
I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. If I had to take a guess, the way he's playing now, I'd say yeah.
And finally, will the Giants make the playoffs?
I think it's going to be a struggle for the Giants to make the playoffs. I think the division is a lot better than it has been. I think you've got two real quality teams in the Padres and Dodgers. They have some flaws, but they are much better than they have been the last few years, in my opinion. I think the Giants are also better, but I think the Diamondbacks are going to be tough. I think it's going to be hard because I see the Mets and the Braves winning a lot of games in the East. The East has some bottom feeders that they can kind of feast on. The Giants don't necessarily have that in this division. I think the wild card's going to be real tough to get. In other words, I think the Giants are going to have to win the West, and I think it's going to be very difficult to do.
Okay, so you as an announcer, where do you go from here? You're young, obviously, do you have a goal of being the number one guy? Do you want to be maybe 30 years down the line, be known as the voice of the Giants or something like that, or even go national?
I like this seat right here. We got a good view here.
Yeah.
I'm happy. So to me, the ideal, when I started thinking about doing broadcasting as a career and pursuing this, I think the greatest job in the whole business is to be the voice of a franchise for a long, long time. There's just a relationship that develops that gives, I think, a broadcaster satisfaction that you can't get out of all the network stuff. Now, I'm not going to turn it down if some people come to me and start saying, we want you to do some other stuff. But I think if I'm here forever with the Giants and develop that relationship over time with the fans here, I think that would be the ideal situation.
All right, well, that's Dave Flemming, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot for being with us, Dave. We really appreciate it. And for the College Sports Report, I'm Bryan Cheung. We'll throw it back to you guys.